Hello everyone and welcome to another episode of Paranormal News. Tonight's article comes from infinityexplorers.com and the headline is Pascagoula Abduction, the UFO sighting that changed the lives of two fishermen entirely. It was written by Ansh Srivastava and it was published January 21st, 2021. On October 11th, 1973, in Pascagoula, Mississippi, one of the most terrifying and credible cases of UFO sighting and alien abduction occurred. The incident is also known as the Pascagoula Abduction. On the evening of the very same day, the two men, Calvin Parker, 19, and Charles Hickson, 42, being fishermen, decided to sit on their most resourceful fishing spot that was located nearby an old shipyard. As soon as Jackson caught a catfish, they both heard a sudden and weird zipping sound that emerged from the behind of the shipyard. I would think they should say that emerged from behind the shipyard there. Saying the behind means it's like the shipyard's buttocks, right? So it should be, they heard a weird sound that emerged from behind the shipyard. And immediately they felt the landing in a clearing that was about 35 yards behind them. Upon turning around, to their surprise, they spotted a 30-foot-long football-shaped object with two portholes. Suddenly, the door of the object opened, and a bright white light emerged from it. Within a couple of seconds, three 5-foot-tall figures moved out smoothly from the craft and approached the two scared fishermen. It became evidently clear at the very moment they arrived that these mysterious figures were not humans. The enigmatic entities were gray in color, with wrinkled bodies, and had claw-like hands. The head appeared to be directly attached to the shoulders, and the neck was absent, and something resembling a nose came out to a point about 2 inches long. On each side of the head, about where ears would be, was something similar to the nose. Directly under the nose was a slit, resembling a mouth. The arms were quite similar to the human arms, however proportionally longer to the body. The hands resembled a mitten, and there was a thumb attached. The legs remained together, and the feet looked something like elephant's feet. If they had a more human likeness, it would not have shocked me so. The entire body was wrinkled and had a grayish color. There could have been eyes, but the area above the nose was so wrinkled, I couldn't tell. That is a quote from Charles Hickson, one of the fellows that apparently got abducted. Both Calvin and Charles had an impression that the strange entities were robots. Calvin was so scared that he fainted, and one of the three figures grabbed Calvin, whereas the other two got a hold of Charles. The moment he was grabbed by the strange creatures, he felt himself getting paralyzed. The strange creatures took them both back into the craft. Though Hickson is dead now, during an interview back in 1973, he attempted to explain what happened to them and what he saw, including when he was taken into the craft. And here's another quote from Hickson. "And they glided me into that thing. You know how you just guide somebody? All of us moved like we were floating through the air. When I got in there, they had me. You know, they just kind of had me there. There were no seats, no chain. They just moved me around. I couldn't resist them. I just floated. Felt no sensation, no pain. They kept me in that position a little while. Then they'd raise me back up." Charles Hickson also tried to describe a machine that was supposedly used for certain medical experiments. And here's yet another quote from Hickson. "No, it wasn't like an X-ray machine. There ain't no way to describe it. It looked like an eye, like a big eye. It had some kind of attachment to it. It moved. It looked like a big eye, and it went all over my body, up and down, and they left me." Hickson answered numerous questions regarding the appearance of the aliens. He further stated that he could not recall if they had eyes, or when did they leave the craft, as he was extremely frightened. Here is yet another quote from Hickson. "The only thing I remember is that kid Calvin just standing there. I've never seen that sort of fear on a man's face as I saw on Calvin's. It took me a while to get him back to his senses, and the first thing I told him was, 'Son, ain't nobody going to believe this. Let's just keep this whole thing to ourselves.' Well, the more I thought about it, the more I thought I had to let some officials know." Charles Hickson had been part of the Korean War and was well aware of what actual fear feels like. However, he still felt that the incident known as the Pascagoula Abduction was far scarier. Inside the craft, he was held captive inside a white room with round walls, and he was unable to move. Both Calvin and Charles were kept in separate rooms. The eye-shaped machine was used to conduct some kind of experiment on him, and then the strange creatures left the room. And that is when he called out for Calvin, but received no response. However, they appeared again after a while and floated Hickson back into the first room, and then outside the craft, where he finally found Calvin shaking in fear. Before taking off in their craft, the aliens left a strong message through telepathy, saying that "we are peaceful, we meant you no harm." The two fishermen decided to report the encounter with the aliens to the police, and fled to the police station. To check the credibility, the policeman hid a tape recorder inside his desk, and left the men alone. He knew that if they were fabricating the story, they would probably discuss it. But when he reviewed the tape, the men stuck to their story, and Parker even broke down crying. It was revealed during the further investigation that several police officers in the area had also seen UFOs around the same time. Both men later underwent hypnosis and lie detector tests. No evidence of hoaxing was ever found. Hickson later had further encounters involving much of his family. The case later became popular as the Pascagoula Abduction and gained attention. And that is the end of this article. So essentially, what happened here was some aliens came down and snatched these two dudes up, took them up in their ship, and they were scared to death. Eventually, they let them go, and they told them that they come in peace, they mean no harm. One interesting thing here is that they do not talk about being experimented on. Maybe they don't have any memory of that, but most cases of abduction, the people talk about medical experiments being performed on them. That would definitely explain the fear. But they don't talk about it, but maybe they just didn't include it in the article, or maybe the people didn't want to talk about it because it was embarrassing, or maybe they don't have no memory of it. But my thought on it is they had to have done something because they took them. So why would they take them if they weren't going to experiment on them or do something? You don't just take somebody up into your ship, let them hang out for a couple minutes, and then say, "All right, peace, you're out of here," and kick them out. And say, "Oh, by the way, we don't want to hurt you. We're cool." That doesn't make any sense. So in my mind, they probably experimented on them, something like that. Now, if they come in peace and they don't mean any harm, why are they snatching people and why are they experimenting on them? To me, that's harm, and that's not coming in peace. That's an act of war. I mean, if a foreign country would come and snatch up our sentiment, if a foreign country would come and snatch up our citizens and do experiments on them, that would be an act of war. So I don't look at this any differently. When aliens abduct humans, that's still an act of war. Now, there's a lot of people that believe that there was a deal made back in the Eisenhower days to where they were allowed to do this by our government. I'm not saying that's true. I'm not saying it's not true. There is some evidence that supports it, but there's nothing super definitive. Maybe we'll do an episode on staring at some point on that very topic, and we'll try to get to the bottom of it. But anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed this episode. Let me know down in the comment section if you liked it. Please like, subscribe, all that jazz, and I will catch you in the next one. Until I speak to you again, love many, trust few, and do harm to none. God loves you, and so do I. Bye-bye.